wonder, and inspire the actions that transform us and transform the world. That's right. Sometimes we get a little ahead of our technology and we just have to wait for it to catch up. I'm the Reverend Julia Hamilton, and I am delighted this morning to be joined by the Justice Choir, by our worship associate, Angie Swanson-Kiriako, by Matthew Grissett on the piano, our music director, by our special guest, Janie Madlani from our Religious Exploration Program, and some other special surprise guests. And all of you, whether you're joining us here in this physical sanctuary or online from the cozy comfort of your home, we are one community this morning. I'd like to extend a special welcome to any visitors or friends we have joining us. We would love to get to know you better. If you're online, you can fill out our virtual connection card in the link in the chat. And if you're here in person, you can stop by the front office after the service for our newcomer orientation. And this happens on the second Sunday of every month. It's just a real brief opportunity to meet some other new folks, learn a little bit about how to get connected to the Unitarian Society, and you'll still have time afterwards for our brunch break. Brunch break is back for $10, a bargain here in Santa Barbara for brunch, let me tell you. You can get quiche and all kinds of other fabulous, delicious offerings that supports the work of our youth group. Our youth group is going to be using the money raised here to fund activities here in Santa Barbara, as well as their service trip to the Hopi Reservation coming up in just a couple of weeks. And I am so grateful for the generosity of this congregation and the way you have supported the youth and our work, our multi-generational work on the Hopi Reservation over the years. There's still an opportunity to enter the raffle for the beautiful piece of pottery made by the traditional Hopi potter Di Satella. We also have a couple of other very beautiful collectible items that have generously been donated by our friends in this work. You can stop by the table or talk to Charlotte Brigante for more information about that. We also have our next session of Good Things Growing this Tuesday night. Good Things Growing is a forum where we bring in members of the community who are doing good things in our midst. Oh, Charlotte. The raffle's on the, the Good Things Growing, sorry, is on the 21st, not this Tuesday, the Tuesday after. I've set my clock ahead a whole week. Jordan Killebrew will be our guest on this evening to talk about Juneteenth Santa Barbara. Juneteenth is the African-American holiday that celebrates liberation and the end of enslavement. And Jordan Killebrew is one of the founders of Juneteenth Santa Barbara. And it's sure to be a fascinating and wonderful conversation. Jordan's a delightful speaker, and I hope you all can come and invite your friends to join us for this event that is open to the whole community. This Saturday, we still have room for a fabulous workshop happening to talk about where we go next as a congregation in our anti-racism work. We have a wonderful facilitator joining us, and this will be an engaging and interactive opportunity to explore the path of this congregation as we lean into our anti-racist work. And finally, there's all kinds of spring holidays coming up, including Passover, which will be happening. Our Passover Seder will be here on April 5th. Jewish members of our congregation are putting it together, and Nancy Beiser is our coordinator this year. Thank you, Nancy. Anyone who would like to help out, please talk to Nancy. You can find her at a table during social hour, and you can sign up online through our interactive database Realm for your spot at the Seder. Whew, that's a lot going on. So go ahead and take a breath and settle yourself wherever you find yourself this morning, whatever you've carried with you into this space. Allow it to rest here with you for this hour as I ring our bell and let the sound connect us.
Good morning. It's so good to be here with all of you. This morning, a little later in the service, we will be talking about artificial intelligence. To get us started, Reverend Julia asked ChatGPT, an artificial intelligence chatbot that writes responses to specific prompts, to write a Unitarian Universalist chalice lighting about daylight savings time. And so here is our chalice lighting this morning, courtesy of ChatGPT. As we gather together, we light this chalice to honor the changing of the clocks and the arrival of daylight saving time. May the flame remind us of the ways in which time can both unify and divide us, and may it inspire us to reflect on the many ways in which we experience the passage of time. May we use this time change as an opportunity to reflect on the rhythms of our lives, to consider the balance between work, rest, and play, and to find new ways to create meaning and purpose in our daily routines. May we remember that time is a precious and finite resource, and may we use it wisely and well, taking care to nurture our relationships, our communities, and our planet. May this flame inspire us to embrace change with courage and curiosity, to see the world with fresh eyes, and to approach each day with a spirit of wonder and gratitude.
We have another flame to kindle this morning, and it is with sadness that I share with you the death of Nancy Murdoch. I know this is news to most of you. Nancy died earlier this week at the age of 79. She has been a member of this congregation for nearly 2 decades, a tireless voice for justice in our community, someone who just showed up over and over again where it mattered, when it mattered, with love in her heart. Over the past few years, memory issues have kept her from participating in the life of this community and in the life of this Santa Barbara community in the way she wanted. But she will always be held in our hearts. And so let us take a moment this morning to remember Nancy and all of those who have made their home here with us for a time. Blessings on your journey. Every morning here, every Sunday morning here at the Unitarian Society, we take a moment to turn our faces toward the good, to lift up places in the world where we see good change happening, because it can be so overwhelming to be caught up in the news of all of the trials and disasters of the day. So I invite you, wherever you are, to take a moment and think about something good you saw this week, some shift towards a more beloved world that you witnessed. It could be a large, big global change. It could be something personal in your life, something in a neighbor's life. But don't keep it to yourself. Share it with each other. Talk about it during our brunch break. Talk about it online in the chat. And this morning in our collective change jar, and you can always write down change for the good that you find in the world and add it to this jar that we'll be collecting all year long. For our collective entry, in the spirit of our conversation around artificial intelligence this morning, there is an early result that shows an AI software with an impressive ability to detect signs of breast cancer missed by many doctors. Using this technology, they can increase detection rate by over 13%. This is one of the ways in which this technology that we'll be wrestling with this morning has opportunities to improve our lives. And so let us lean into those hopeful places, as well as the places where it challenges us. And now let us sing together this morning. We're going to be singing number 347, Gather the Spirit. 347, please rise in body and spirit. The words are in your hymnals or on the screen or at home. So this morning, for our story, our time for all ages, I'm invited Janie Madlani to join us here to talk about the Springtime Festival of Holi. So Janie, you want to tell us about Holi?
So usually at this time of year, we welcome spring and think of new beginnings. Hindus celebrate the festival of Holi at this time of year, and they start the festival with remembering the story of the demoness Holika.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to come closer and join us up here to get a better view, come on up.
Holika's brother, the demon king, was angry that his son, Prahalad, worshipped Lord Vishnu instead of himself. So he asked Holika to kill him. Holika, wearing a fireproof cloak, took Prahalad and sat on a fire. Prahalad joined her at her feet, but Lord Vishnu saved Prahalad by making the cloak cover him instead. Holika burned and Lord Vishnu prevailed over the demon. Hindus end this festival celebrating the triumph of good over evil by burning effigies of Holika, hence the Holi festival, but also thinking about spring and new beginnings and triumphing over good over evil. There's a mixture of love and happiness and color by throwing powdered paint over each other, which is a festival that we do with the children every year. So happy spring and happy Holi.
Thank you, Janie. Thank you to our actors this morning to help us tell the story of Holi, and I hope you have fun celebrating this festival as we sing you to your religious exploration activities this morning. I invite you now to take a moment to enter into a time of reflection, meditation, and prayer. To settle yourself wherever you are, perhaps get in touch with your breathing, or feel yourself settling into your seat, your back against the pew or the chair, perhaps your hands open, whatever feels most comfortable to you, whatever posture feels most stable and settled to you in this moment. As we turn our thoughts towards the question of artificial intelligence and technology this morning, I invite us to take this time of quiet meditation to get in touch with our human intelligence, to get in touch with that mysterious spark of consciousness that resides within each of us, that mysterious spark that resides within each and every person gathered here. And if you can extend your imagination far enough, that resides within each and every person on this planet. Cherish that spark, that worthy spark within each of us as we enter into a time of quiet reflection together.
this thing out. There we go. Right. How's that done? Okay. Right, guys. What does?
Welcome back. We mentioned technology this morning, and we get all kinds of fun, playful interactions with technology through our sound system. That was, of course, Janie, who is wearing her microphone in our religious education program with our children. I jumped ahead to their meditation, but you'll notice in your order of service, we do have another thing to do this morning as a congregation, and that is to recognize the work of the Committee on Shared Ministry. The Committee on Shared Ministry, what is that? What is this word called ministry that is embedded in the name of this committee? A committee that's so important, it's actually in the bylaws of the congregation. It's been around for a long time. To minister means to attend to the needs of a group of people or a person, right? I'm called a minister because part of my job is about tending to the needs of the members and friends of this congregation. And of course, to the needs of the congregation as a whole and the wider world in which we live and this faith tradition of Unitarian Universalism, which we share. But luckily, I do not have to do this work alone, thank goodness. Because in the Unitarian Universalist tradition, the work of ministry, of tending to our needs is shared among us, not just reserved for ordained clergy. We do this work together in the spirit of service to one another and the world. And so within this congregation, we have many ministries, the music ministry and connection circles and our religious exploration classes. I could go on, but because we are all human beings doing this work together from time to time, believe it or not, even in this beautiful, beloved community, conflict can arise. It's true, it happens here sometimes, folks. But the question is not, will conflict arise? The question is, what do we do when that happens? How do we address problems early and effectively? How do we navigate change together? And how do we celebrate and appreciate when things go well? This is where the Committee on Shared Ministry comes in. At its heart, the Committee on Shared Ministry is a healthy communications team. They're here to help you communicate with each other, with other staff, with me about the health and life of this congregation. It might be an appreciation or a concern or just a comment or observation. It might be something you need help resolving with another person and you need an outside perspective to help you all get unstuck. Or maybe you just have a piece of feedback you want to share and you don't quite know where to bring it. Members of COSM will be at a table out in the courtyard from time to time, and they have this little thing called a note to COSM. You can find it in paper format in the front office or online. And the note to COSM is a way where you can give feedback to the congregation about the life of the congregation. And any of the members of the Committee on Shared Ministry, COSM for short, can help you. There's one more important piece of the work that COSM does, and that's in the printed order of service today, and you can also find it on our website online. You all have this little green piece of paper if you're here with us in person. And on one side, it has a little ritual that we're going to do in just a minute. And on the other side, it has this, the covenant of healthy relationships. This is kind of the roadmap of how we agree to be together when we hit bumpy waters. And it's good for everyone to, we're not going to read through the whole thing right now, but it's good for everyone to read it from time to time, just to remember that we as a community of people of goodwill have a way that we want to be together in the world so we can function and do the work of making meaning and building a more beloved community together. This congregation is stronger because you all have articulated this shared commitment to treating one another with goodwill and mutual respect. And so now, as I call your name, will the members of COSM please come forward? Nancy Beiser, Trasa McGettigan, Kate Mead, Susan Neufeld, Gail Stichler, and Deb Wolf. Come on up. I think everybody but Susan is here today. I want to bring up these folks because we're going to commission them to this work as a congregation, but I also want you to know who they are so that you know how to reach them and reach out should you need them. So now you have this little green piece of paper. The words will also come up on the screen, and you all don't have to memorize anything. You just have to respond with "we do." So I'm going to start with the COSM members. Members of this Committee on Shared Ministry, do you covenant to nurture the spirit of healthy and compassionate communication, to listen with respect and care to the people within our congregation, to be attentive to the many ministries we share, and to uphold the covenant of healthy relationships, to embody the goodwill of this precious community? And now, members, if you please rise in body and spirit, if you will. Rise at home, or just put your hand over your heart. If you don't want to stand up, that's fine. Do you, the people of the Unitarian Society of Santa Barbara, commission and empower this Committee on Shared Ministry to do the work of fostering healthy and compassionate communication and upholding the spirit of goodwill among us so that our diverse ministries may flourish and grow? From the central flame of this congregation, I kindle a light for the Committee on Shared Ministry. May the love of this gathered community and the support of this gathered community be with you in all that you do. Thank you. Let's make a joyful noise for the Committee on Shared Ministry.
Some of you may know or have heard that my day-to-day job involves working with women and birthing people who have voluntarily or involuntarily, can't hear me? Woo. Let me start over. Okay, how about that? Is that better? Okay, some of you may know or have heard that my day-to-day job involves working with women and birthing people who have voluntarily or involuntarily relinquished their children for adoption. The job requires empathy, compassion, patience, and listening. For me, it's also a practice in monitoring outrage when I hear of the various barriers and injustices that many of our clients experience. One night, not too long ago, I received a text message from a member of my board of directors. It was a screenshot with some pastel-colored blocks with light-colored fonts, and the top was the question, "What is a birth mother?" Below was a rather generic sort of textbook response, very similar to other things I've read before. Certainly nothing revolutionary or nuanced. My board member texted back, "It's ChatGPT." My face contorted into a scrunched up sneer as I looked at the text and said out loud, "Huh?" But typed back, "What is that?" She went on to explain that it was AI, artificial intelligence. My response was to text back the robot emoji. I don't think I was ready in that moment to think about the impact artificial intelligence could have on our work. Coincidentally, later that week, I received an email from a random nonprofit leadership organization exclaiming, "Don't be scared, learn more about AI and the nonprofit sector." I cringed and wondered if the bots were reading the text message exchange between me and my board member as I hesitantly signed up for the webinar. Folks, I'm going to be honest, I'm so uncomfortable with AI. And when I look at artificial intelligence through the lens of the Unitarian principles, I'm a bit scared. In addition to the studies that show AI can have gender and racial bias, I also worry AI is going to strip our connection and understanding of one another beyond what social media has already done. Will we cease to see injustices like those I see in my work because an algorithm will tell us they don't exist? To sit with someone in the joyous highs and the intense dark lows of their lives is part of being human. Getting to a space with someone where you're willing to be vulnerable and share your thoughts, feelings, fears, and joys is what connects us to one another. To be truly seen by someone and have them say, "I'm so sorry that happened to you," or "I'm so excited for you." That kind of validation and warmth cannot be replicated by an algorithm. Until we know more about the true impacts of artificial intelligence on societal structures, communication, and relationships, I will continue to show up with empathy, compassion, and patience, acknowledging my own vulnerabilities as I navigate an ever-changing digital world and what that could possibly mean for humanity.
Each month here at the Unitarian Society, we give away a part of our offertory to support a project or a program that lives our values in the world. And in the month of March, we are collecting our outreach offering for something that is happening in April, and that is our annual Hunt for Justice. This is a marvelous tradition in our religious exploration program here at the Unitarian Society, where our kids get to learn about generosity, about outreach, about what it means to pay attention to the needs of the world through our Easter egg hunt. The money raised by the congregation then will get turned over to our kids in our RE program, and they get to decide where they want to put it to work in the world. And then we use the Easter eggs that they collect on that Easter egg hunt for them to vote for one of 3 organizations that they want to give away the money to. And that is how we help share the values of giving back to our community, to our kids, through this really fun tradition. So please give as generously as you can to support the unknown organizations that our kids will select, turn the power over to them through this outreach offering. And please read with me the affirmation of gratitude and giving that is in your order of service or on your screen. Let us be grateful when we are able to give, for many do not have that privilege. And let us be grateful for those who share their needs with us, for we are enriched by their giving. And let us be grateful, even for our needs, so that we may learn from the generosity of others. Thank you, Justice Squire. And Matthew is giving Heather, our accompanist, a well-deserved morning off. Good morning. Like so many of you, I've grown up reading and watching science fiction. And that means that along with wondering about life on other planets and whether or not wormholes exist, I've also grown up with countless imaginative stories about artificial intelligence, what it will look like, how it might work, and what it might be capable of, for better or for worse. Utopian visions and dystopian visions abound in science fiction. And it seems like over the past few months, we have taken a giant step closer to finding out what it will be like to live in those worlds. How many of you have heard of ChatGPT before this morning? How many of you are hearing about this for the first time? How many of you have interacted with ChatGPT yet? A handful of folks. It's been all over the news since it launched last November. So it's just been a couple of months, and already it's cropping up everywhere. It was launched last November by a company named OpenAI, which was founded in 2015. And yes, Elon Musk had his hands in this too. He was one of the founding members of OpenAI on its original board, although he has since stepped down. And why that's important, we'll get to in a little bit. But for now, it's enough to say that since November of 2022, ChatGPT has captured a lot of attention as the next big leap in a certain kind of artificial intelligence. So what is ChatGPT? The short answer is that it is a predictive language model. But let's hear it from the horse's mouth. So here's what it said about itself when I asked it the question, what is ChatGPT? I am ChatGPT, a language model created by OpenAI. I am designed to generate human-like responses to natural language inputs, and my training data comes from a diverse range of sources, including books, articles, and websites. My purpose is to assist users in generating natural language text for a variety of tasks, such as writing essays, creating chatbot responses, and generating content for social media. I am capable of answering questions on a wide range of topics and engaging in conversations with users in a natural and coherent way. It didn't list writing chalice lightings as one of its core functions, but I think you get the point. But because I've been trained to never take anything I read on the internet at face value, I thought I would dig a little deeper. So I went out for coffee with our friendly neighborhood neuroscientist and software engineer, Craig Bennett. Now, I want to make it clear that I am neither a software engineer nor a brain scientist. So any mistakes I make in this sermon are 100% me and not in any way Craig's fault. And we had a fascinating conversation that could probably inspire many sermons, but I'll try to synthesize some of what came up. First of all, ChatGPT or any other chatbot is not artificial intelligence in the way we imagine it usually in science fiction. Despite the fact that it says I and talks in the first person, it is not a free-thinking, self-aware computer program. ChatGPT creates predictive text. The program looks at each word and tries to guess what the most likely next word might be, based on all the other words that came before it and all the examples it has in its library of what comes next, using things that have already been written as examples. But it has this incredibly, almost inconceivably large data set from which to pull. So its predictive text is really, really nuanced. I'm sure that's a gross oversimplification of a really complicated programming process, but it's the best I can do to summarize what I know. But Craig explained something else that was fascinating about how ChatGPT and chatbots like it work. In order to sound human, to fool us into thinking that a human person might have written this text, there has to be a little bit of randomization in the system. That is to say that ChatGPT can't always pick the most likely next word from all of its hundreds of thousands of options. Sometimes it picks the 17th most likely next word or the 5th most likely next word. The random variation has to be calibrated just right, because too little randomization and it sounds like a computer, it sounds fake. But too much randomization and the chatbot will be bizarre and won't make any sense. So it's like finding the perfect setting on a dial to learn what human beings sound like. Our human conversations with each other exist within this certain range of uncertainty. And ChatGPT and its programmers have to try and mimic that. So what chatbots create is defined by the library of texts they have access to and this certain amount of randomization in choosing the words that it uses. For example, when you log into the OpenAI chatbot, there's this short list of capabilities and limitations telling me that ChatGPT has very little knowledge of anything after 2021. I'm assuming that the programmers used only content generated before 2021 to train the bot. We only get out what we put in, sort of, because of that randomization. But although we input words and texts and the chatbot has access to these texts, what doesn't get entered in with those words is meaning. The reason why those texts were written in the first place. The bot has access to data, not meaning. Even though the meaning is still hidden there, embedded in the text, whether it's Shakespeare or a training manual to fly a plane or Mein Kampf. The chatbot has no idea what it is talking about. It just uses the text as predictive data. Or as another engineer who works on language models wrote about ChatGPT, what is generated will tend to follow the well-trodden paths in the library. The model training algorithm has no access to the underlying social purposes and processes that yielded the library. There are no guardrails to stop the model from generating statistically reasonable, but factually or socially incoherent outputs. The model does not know what words mean. Another way to say all of this is these are not language models, this person says, they are culture models. Chatbots don't create language. It's not creating a language that's about meaning and communicating ideas. Instead, chatbots reflect back a given culture, the way language is used in the examples it is given. ChatGPT is a mirror. It synthesizes the perspectives and purposes of the millions of authors it has access to. It is not trying to be truthful. It is not trying to give you the right answer. Its goal is just to sound truthful, to sound like the right answer, to predict what you think the right answer might read like. You can see where this might run into some trouble. It has no sense of why one word might be chosen or another outside of statistical probability. It has no intention. So this brings me to a big question. Does intention matter in this case? If AI can write a delicious recipe for beef stew, or write a poem that you feel is emotionally touching, or paint a beautiful picture, or save a life by performing a difficult surgery, does it matter that it has no idea what a life is? Does it matter that it doesn't know why? Let's look at that chalice lighting that we shared earlier. And I gave it the prompt, write a Unitarian Universalist chalice lighting about daylight savings time. And I'll refresh your memory so you can listen again to what ChatGPT came up with, now that you know a little bit about how it was written. It wrote, "As we gather together, we light this chalice to honor the changing of the clocks and the arrival of daylight savings time. May the flame remind us of the ways in which time can both unify and divide us, and may it inspire us to reflect on the many ways in which we experience the passage of time. May we use this time change as an opportunity to reflect on the rhythm of our lives, to consider the balance between work, rest, and play, to find new ways to create meaning and purpose in our daily lives. May we remember that time is a precious and finite resource, and may we use it wisely and well, taking care to nurture our relationships, our communities, and our planet. May this flame inspire us to embrace change with courage and curiosity, to see the world with fresh eyes, and to approach each day with a spirit of wonder and gratitude." Not bad. It has no idea what any of those words mean. It talks about a life of meaning and purpose. In the text, it uses the phrase "we." It places itself within that circle of meaning and purpose. But it has no idea why we gather here to light this chalice. It has no idea of the unspoken things that happen inside each and every one of you when you see that flame rise up week after week. It has no idea why I've made hundreds of doodles of little flaming chalices over the course of my entire life in the margins of books or on my shoes, on pages of sermons. Does it matter whether AI means it the way you and I might mean it when we use words to communicate things that are so much more than words will ever contain? I think it does. I think it does matter. The why matters, and the why still lives only at this point in time within us flesh and blood humans. Some might argue that intent doesn't matter if the output does what we want it to, but especially when performing social and cultural tasks, like the chalice lighting, like religious ritual. I want to know that the person performing the task is not just participating in an action, but also in the meaning of that action. I want to know that the person is invested in the meaning of that action, that the words come from a place of integrity, right? It's in our mission statement, living lives with integrity, where meaning and action are congruent. Why else are we here except to create lives of meaning and purpose? The AI programs that we have developed are getting very convincing using predictive models. And we may be at the point where human beings cannot distinguish content produced by an AI from content produced by a person. But we're still a long way away from developing artificial intelligence that understands the why of behavior. We're a long way away from that AI of science fiction that makes its own independent choices. An AI that can truly be said to have intent, not just calculation. Perhaps someday in the distant future, when an AI chatbot can understand the meaning behind the words, then I will be fine with a robot as a worship associate, if it understands what it's doing. But for now, Angie, your role is safe. We can give the chatbots every book, every word humanity ever wrote. We can scan in the texts from every language and culture, but currently we still cannot digitize that experience, that wordless experience when a flock of starlings takes off and wheels in the air and you see it and something happens. The way the sanctuary feels when we walk in for a memorial service of someone we loved. Or why we fall in love with this person, not that one. In the well-known sci-fi novel, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which is hilarious and yet also a profound investigation of humanity's place in the universe. I highly recommend it. There's a scene in which the main character, an Englishman named Arthur Dent, finds himself on the most technologically advanced spaceship in the galaxy, just technology that could blow your mind, and all he really wants is a cup of tea. And the machine can't produce it. In fact, it produces something entirely almost but not quite unlike tea. And so he tries to explain what he wants. And he sits down in front of this beverage machine on this imaginary, fantastic spaceship, and he explains to the Nutramatic about India and China and Ceylon. And he told it about broad leaves drying in the sun. He told it about silver teapots. He told it about summer afternoons on the lawn. He told it about putting the milk in before the tea so it wouldn't get scalded. He even told it briefly about the East India Company. In the book, it turns out that understanding the concept of a cup of tea was so difficult. It took the entire operating system of the entire spaceship's attention away from all its other jobs and almost got everyone killed. But eventually, after a long time, it did produce a cup of good tea. I like this example because it shows how hard it is to really explain the essence of something. A simple cup of tea has an emotional resonance, a ritual of service, a history that goes far beyond just boiling some leaves in water and drinking the boiled tea leaf water. Our current chatbots can explain how to make tea, and probably even have the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy in their enormous reference library, but they do not yet know what it means to invite a friend over for tea. The intent still lives within us, the human side of the equation, not in the code. But here's the scary part for me, not the AI gaining sentience and being overthrown by our robot overlords. That's not what keeps me up at night right now. Because if intent lives with us, then who exactly is us when it comes to this technology? That is the real question of this moment, not what can it do, but at whose bidding and for what purpose? What very real human purpose. This is what gets me back to that side note at the beginning, the fact that Elon Musk was on the board of OpenAI, as was Peter Thiel, who's another very well-known tech guy, in this case, who's involved in a lot of surveillance and data gathering technology. OpenAI is not some scrappy underdog, but it's a who's who of the tech industry. And the purposes for which they have been developing technology have tended, as far as I can tell, to be in service to shareholders and those already in positions of power and privilege, rather than in consideration for the majority of the needs of this people on this planet. Ted Chiang, a well-known sci-fi author, in an interview, summarized my concerns when he made this point to the New York Times. Most of our fears or anxieties about technology and AI are best understood as fears or anxieties about how capitalism will use technology against us. And technology and capitalism have been so closely intertwined, it's hard to distinguish the two. Are we talking about our fears of artificial intelligence? Or are we talking about our fears about how the system in which we live will use artificial intelligence, this powerful tool that is being created? And unless there is equally powerful oversight and regulation to prevent it from being used for exploitation, it can and will be used for exploitation. And this technology is evolving so rapidly, it's going to be hard for the slow-moving wheels of governmental regulation to keep up. I don't think we've seen the tip of the iceberg of the way these programs will be able to manipulate our deepest human impulses around things like love and safety and fear and belonging. I am afraid it's going to be a bumpy road as we figure this out, my friends. but it's not all gloom and doom. I don't want to leave you here in that place. Conversation, Craig reminded me that there is still so much many ways to all play out, that to jump to conclusions at this point, to think we know how it's going to go, is premature. All we can do is join with other people of goodwill and try and make sure that the intentions of human flourishing don't get overwritten by the intentions of profitability. We must use our voices to make sure that human flourishing is lifted up over profitability. When preparing for this service, I typed into ChatGPT, write a Unitarian Universalist sermon about the pros and cons of artificial intelligence. That was not this sermon, by the way. What it came up with was a little short and rather obvious, but like any good UU sermon, it ended with a call to action in the last paragraph. And that piece was pretty interesting. So here it is from a little excerpt from the ChatGPT sermon. So where do we go from here? It asks us. As Unitarian Universalists, I didn't know it had a religion, we believe in the power of human agency and creativity to shape our future. We must approach AI with both hope and caution, embracing its potential benefits while working to mitigate its risks and challenges. We must engage in ongoing dialogue and collaboration with policymakers, technologists, ethicists, and communities that may be affected by AI. Ultimately, it says, the future of AI will depend on our collective actions and decisions. As we move forward, let us do so with a spirit of curiosity, openness, and commitment to creating a better world for all. Chatbot that wrote this may not know why it said any of those things, but they sound pretty good. Go into this with a commitment to creating a better world for all. And as the chatbot said at the end of its sermon, may it be so. Let us do something that no chatbot can do, which is sing together in our own unique and wonderful way. So please rise in body and spirit and join in singing our closing hymn, Be That Guide. It's number 124. The words are in your book, in your screen, on your screen at home, and our Justice Choir will lead us. Please stay right where you are. If you want to put your hand over your heart or hold your hands open, or if you have permission to hold hands or put your hand on the shoulder of the person next to you, go ahead and do that. And as you go out into this beautiful and heartbreaking world, may the light of love shine upon you, out from within you, be gracious unto you, and bring you peace. For this is the day we are given. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And let us call out a blessing.
All right. Hi, everybody. If you are interested in sticking around for chat, coffee hour, you can unmute yourselves. Let me just make sure you can do that. Yes, you should be able to.